Patriots Nation, the buzz is getting louder and louder as we get closer to one of the most important moments of the offseason. And there is no shortage of storylines surrounding New England right now. With the draft just around the corner, every move, every rumor, and every possibility starts to feel a little more real. And some of the names being linked to the team are big enough to completely change the direction of this roster. One situation that continues to grab attention across the league involves Max Crosby, a player who could instantly elevate any defense he joins. There was a moment where it looked like a deal was already in place, with Baltimore reportedly ready to send 2 first-round picks to make it happen. But then everything fell apart after a failed physical, and suddenly Crosby was right back where he started. That twist not only frustrated both sides involved, but it also reopened the door for other teams to at least check in and see what might be possible. The reality, though, is that the asking price has not changed. The Raiders are still looking at a massive return, and those 2 first-round picks remain the baseline for any serious conversation. That alone makes things complicated for New England. Giving up that kind of draft capital is not just a short-term gamble. It is a move that reshapes your future. And while adding a dominant edge rusher is always tempting, especially one with Crosby's impact, the Patriots have to weigh whether that cost aligns with where the team is right now. There are other teams lurking in the background as well, and Dallas is one of the most intriguing. After making a major decision regarding their own defensive star situation, they now appear to be exploring options that could include bringing in someone like Crosby. It is a fascinating shift, especially when you consider the financial implications and the type of commitment required to land a player of that caliber. For New England, it creates even more competition in a market that is already difficult to navigate. Still, if you look at it from a different angle, the timing might be everything here. Instead of forcing a move right now, the Patriots could be in a much stronger position if they wait. As the season progresses, situations change, values shift, and what once seemed untouchable can suddenly become realistic. If the price drops, even slightly, or if circumstances push the Raiders in a different direction, New England could step in at the right moment and make a move that feels far more balanced. There is also another layer to this entire situation that adds a bit of intrigue. With Tom Brady now having a role in the Raiders organization, even if it is not a day-to-day front office position, there are whispers about how that connection might influence decisions. Considering his history with the Patriots, it naturally raises questions about whether he would be comfortable seeing a player like Crosby end up in New England. It is not something that can be confirmed with certainty, but it is part of the conversation, and it shows just how many moving pieces are involved in a deal like this. At the same time, the draft conversation is heating up in a big way. This is the period where projections are everywhere, and every analyst seems to have a different vision for what the Patriots should do. When you start looking at the roster, it becomes clear that there are multiple directions the team could take. Wide receiver is an obvious need, especially after key changes in that position group, but it is far from the only area that deserves attention. Some projections have New England targeting a receiver early, with the idea of bringing in a young playmaker who can grow into a leading role. The question is not just about talent, but about timing. Can that player make an impact right away, or is this someone who needs time to develop? For a team that wants to stay competitive and push forward quickly, that distinction matters more than ever. On the defensive side, the need for a strong presence on the edge continues to stand out. Adding a player who can consistently pressure the quarterback changes everything for a defense, and it is the kind of impact that can be felt immediately. That is why so many projections connect the Patriots with pass rushers in the early rounds. It is not just about filling a gap, it is about adding a piece that can shape the identity of the unit moving forward. And when you look at where the Patriots are positioned in the draft, it creates a unique kind of flexibility. They are not locked into one path, and that opens the door for a strategy that focuses on value as much as need. Finding players who can contribute early while also developing into long-term starters is the balance every team is trying to achieve, and for New England, getting that right could define their entire season. Beyond the roster moves, there are also changes being discussed at the league level that could influence how the game is played. Several proposals are being reviewed, and many of them focus on special teams, particularly kickoffs. The league continues to search for the right balance between safety and competitiveness, and these potential adjustments reflect that ongoing effort. There are also discussions about improving how officiating decisions are handled, especially in situations where clear mistakes can impact the outcome of a game. The idea is to find a way to correct obvious errors without slowing the game down too much. It is a delicate balance, because while accuracy is crucial, maintaining the flow of the game is just as important for players and fans alike. All of these elements, from potential trades to draft strategies to rule changes, are coming together at the same time, and they are shaping what could be a defining stretch for the Patriots. Every decision carries weight, and every opportunity has the potential to push this team closer to where it wants to be as the pressure continues to build and the spotlight gets brighter with each passing day as the conversation keeps evolving. One area that cannot be overlooked is what is happening in the trenches, because that is where teams quietly build their identity. And New England has always placed a premium on getting that part right. There is a growing sense that the Patriots are not done exploring options along the defensive line, even with a group that already has size and depth. That is where things start to get interesting, especially when a name begins to surface more than once in connection with the team. Caden McDonald has become one of those names that refuses to go away. At first, the idea of New England targeting a defensive tackle that early in the draft raised some eyebrows. When you look at the current roster, it is fair to question whether that is the most urgent need. But the more this situation develops, the more it feels like the Patriots are at least seriously evaluating the possibility. Bringing him in for a visit is not something teams do lightly, and it often signals genuine interest rather than simple curiosity. What stands out immediately is the physical presence he brings to the field. Players with that kind of size and strength are not just role players. They have the potential to completely alter how an opposing offense approaches the game. A true nose tackle who can dominate against the run changes the math for everyone else on the defense. It frees up linebackers, it forces offenses into uncomfortable situations, and it creates opportunities that do not always show up in the stat sheet but are felt throughout the entire game. This is where the Patriots' philosophy comes into play. Even if a position looks solid on paper, that has never stopped them from adding more talent if they believe it can elevate the group as a whole. Depth is important, but impact is everything. If the coaching staff sees McDonald as someone who can step in and immediately influence games, then the conversation shifts from whether they need him to whether they can afford to pass on him. There is also a deeper layer tied to familiarity and trust. The connection to Ohio State is not something that goes unnoticed, especially with the influence of the current coaching staff. When there is already a level of understanding about how a player has been developed, what kind of system they have come from, and how they handle high-level competition, it reduces some of the uncertainty that comes with draft decisions. That kind of insight can be the difference between taking a calculated risk and making a confident choice. At the same time, building a roster is never about just one position. Every decision has a ripple effect, and that is especially true early in the draft. If New England decides to invest heavily in the defensive line, it changes how they approach the rest of their picks. Suddenly, the focus might shift toward adding weapons on offense in the later rounds, looking for players who can complement what is already in place rather than trying to find a single immediate star. That brings the spotlight back to the offensive side of the ball and the development of the quarterback. Supporting a young signal caller is always a priority, and it is not just about bringing in one big name. It is about creating an environment where multiple pieces work together. Whether that means adding another wide receiver, a tight end who can stretch the field, or even reinforcing the offensive line, every addition plays a role in shaping how the offense functions as a whole. There is a scenario where the Patriots lean into a balanced approach, targeting a high-impact defender early and then circling back to offense with players who bring versatility and upside. It may not create the biggest headlines on draft night, but it is the kind of strategy that builds stability over time. And for a team that is trying to position itself as a consistent contender again, that kind of foundation matters. Another factor that cannot be ignored is how the league itself continues to evolve. The potential rule changes being discussed are not just minor tweaks. They reflect a broader shift in how the game is managed. Adjustments to kickoffs, for example, could have a direct impact on field position and special team strategy. Teams that adapt quickly to those changes can gain an edge in situations that often go unnoticed but can decide close games. The same goes for the way officiating is handled. Introducing mechanisms to correct clear mistakes without disrupting the pace of the game shows how much emphasis is being placed on both accuracy and entertainment. For players and coaches, it means adapting not just to opponents, but to the framework of the game itself. Understanding those nuances can be the difference between winning and losing in critical moments. All of this creates a complex landscape for the Patriots as they move forward. It is not just about picking the right players. It is about understanding how those players fit into a system that is constantly shifting. Every choice needs to align with both the current roster and the direction the league is heading in. That is what makes this period so important and, at the same time, so unpredictable. And as the days continue to pass, the sense of anticipation only grows stronger. Every report, every visit, every piece of speculation adds another layer to the story. The Patriots are navigating a path filled with opportunities and challenges, and the decisions made now will echo far beyond the draft itself. As the team continues shaping its identity for the seasons ahead, what makes this moment even more fascinating is how unpredictable the board can become once the draft actually begins. Teams ahead of New England could make surprising selections. Quarterbacks could slide or rise unexpectedly, and that domino effect might place a player in the Patriots' range that was never supposed to be there. That is where preparation meets opportunity. If the front office has done its homework the right way, this is the exact kind of situation where they can capitalize, grabbing a talent that falls without having to sacrifice additional assets to move up. There is also the emotional side of it, because every decision is going to be scrutinized by a fan base that is eager to see this team return to true contention. Every pick will be analyzed not just for what the player is today, but for what he could become in 1, 2, or 5 years. And in a roster that is still finding its balance between experience and youth, hitting on those selections is not just important, it is essential. 1 or 2 key contributors can completely shift the trajectory of a season, especially when they fill roles that have been question marks. At the same time, the Patriots know that building a contender is not about chasing headlines. It is about stacking smart decisions on top of each other. Whether it is passing on a flashy move for the sake of long-term stability or trusting their internal evaluations over outside noise, this is where the identity of the organization really shows. And as everything continues to unfold, there is a growing sense that New England is positioning itself not just to react to what happens, but to quietly take control of its own path in a way that could catch a lot of people off guard as the season approaches. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are growing louder across the league, and what once sounded like pure fantasy is now being treated as a scenario worth watching closely. Sources around the NFL suggest that the New England Patriots are quietly exploring a bold and controversial move, a potential attempt to lure Tyreek Hill away from the Miami Dolphins. At first glance, the idea feels almost unthinkable. Hill remains one of the most explosive offensive weapons in football, a cornerstone in Miami's high-octane attack. Yet insiders hint that New England's interest goes beyond simple roster improvement. Around the league, some executives are framing this as something deeper, a calculated act of revenge tied to lingering scars from their recent championship heartbreak against the Seattle Seahawks. While no official negotiations have been confirmed, the speculation centers on the Patriots' desire to reshape their identity. Adding a player like Hill would not only electrify their offense, but also send a powerful message. New England is not rebuilding quietly. They are hunting aggressively. The symbolism of targeting a divisional rival's superstar only adds fuel to the narrative. League insiders describe the situation as delicate but intriguing. Miami, for its part, is believed to have no intention of entertaining offers. Hill's presence is vital both on the field and in the locker room. However, the NFL has seen its fair share of unexpected moves, especially when pride, ambition, and unfinished business collide. For fans, the mere possibility is enough to spark debate. Would Hill even consider such a move? Could New England assemble a package tempting enough to force Miami's hand? And perhaps most importantly, is this truly about football strategy or something far more personal? For now, it remains firmly in the realm of rumor. But in a league where the line between speculation and reality can blur overnight, this is one storyline that refuses to fade. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.